8 hours of reading the Bible, 2 hours of prayer. Knock, knock, knock. Wake up, please, wake up. The brothers did not budge no matter how much I clapped. What are you doing this early in the morning? A brother seemed to be saying as he glanced at me, then turned and snored. It was still dark as I awakened the brothers one at a time. Finally, I rushed the brothers, all of them still half asleep, into the large living room where we began to have our very first early morning prayer service. I told them to pray aloud so that they wouldn't fall asleep during the hour-long service. After breakfast, for their safety and as a symbol of their being born again as a new person in Christ, I gave them new names. I changed my name to Kwang, which means shine forth the light of Christ, before I came to China. After I explained my new name, I spoke to brothers Hangsu Bang, who was staring at me. Brothers Hangsu, what should be your new name? What would be good? How about Moody? What do you think? Moody? What kind of name is that? What does it mean? In the 19th century, there was a revivalist named D.L. Moody in America. He was a great evangelist that led millions to Christ. He screamed at me even before I quit speaking. Listen, you missionary from South Korea? Isn't that the name of an American Yankee? What kind of person do you think I am that you can insult me like this? Are you trying to make me an American Yankee from now on? No way. Absolutely no way. What's wrong with Moody? Moody was a very special person. I want you, brothers Hangsu, to become a great revivalist like Moody. Why are you speaking nonsense? Why are you forcing me to attach myself to an American imperialist's name? Absolutely not. No matter how much I explained Pastor Moody's greatness, he was adamant. No way. Absolutely not. If you like it so much, why don't you take it? I don't want it at all. I left brothers Hangsu alone in his stubbornness and turned to brother Changuk Jin. Brother Changuk, do you like studying? I noticed your interest. If you persist, you can become a great theologian like John Calvin. Continue studying hard on God's Word. Brother Changuk, who was annoyed by Brother Hangsu's continuing noises and uncooperativeness, nodded his head in acceptance of his new name. As for Brother Chol, I named him after the famous martyr Gi-chul-ju because he had the same last name. When the christening was done, Instructor Kwang began to speak, a moment he apparently had been waiting for. We have all come here to study, he declared. No more smoking and drinking. You can never smoke and drink from now on. Instructor Kwang then confiscated all the cigarettes from the North Korean brothers and collected all their money so they could not buy any more. This is how our ministry training began. From dawn until late at night, everything was done according to a schedule I devised. Early morning prayer lasted from 6 a.m. to 7 a.m., followed by a half hour for breakfast. At 7:30 a.m., we began a session of Bible reading that ran until noon, with the half-hour break that was part of a program to read the Bible from cover to cover. Lunch was followed by time for naps until 3 p.m. when we began an hour of prayer. From 4 p.m. to 7 p.m., we again read the Bible and resumed our reading after dinner from 8:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. Everyone was caught off guard when I started this curriculum because they had all thought I was a nice guy who liked to laugh. Teacher from South Korea, do you have to do this? Why are you making our life so miserable? Why are you doing this to us? I just ignored them and played the audio tape of the Bible that they followed in their own Bibles. The tape was especially recorded to play the entire New Testament in 8 hours. Our daily schedule meant everyone heard the entire New Testament every day. Because no time was wasted, all the brothers were exhausted by the day's end. They all rushed to their beds when the reading through the Bible ended at night. The first day went smoothly without any major incidents. For the first time, no one fought. Yahoo! I thought to myself. Instructor Kwang was glad to see me proceed in such a military style. He knew well how difficult the students were to control, and despite his best efforts, he had not been able to. Nevertheless, all the brothers complained in unison. Brother Moody, we were calling him that, complained that he had fared better in the North Korean military. When I was in the North Korean military, it was hard to the point of dying, and I was very hungry, but at least they allowed us to smoke. Wasn't that true, everyone? But here in China, where there's freedom, we have to read this ghastly book all day long. Can't smoke, can't drink. It's not fit for a human being, is it? Brother Choi suddenly quit staring at the wall and spoke angrily. Teacher, what is this? What are we doing? Why are you not letting us smoke or drink? Why are you preventing us from going outside when and as we please? Are you trying to save us or kill us? Do you think we can survive this? Brother Choi was never able to sit still during Bible reading. He would lie down on his stomach while looking at the Bible, then turn around, lie on his back, and stare at the ceiling. When I clapped my hands and warned him, he reluctantly sat up straight and thumbed through the Bible here and there. He also would sit askew to either the left or right, then suddenly get up and stand still for a while, all the time staring at me as I pretended not to notice him as I read the Bible. When I looked at him, I felt like I was observing a mental patient in a hospital. New brothers came to our mission center. On August 13th, Instructor Kwang went to Yilan in Yanji and returned with two men who Brother Calvin had talked about. They were former co-workers in a quarry in China where Brother Calvin worked before he joined us. Both of them had graduated from a technical college in North Korea. I told them about famous Korean pastors Choi, meaning power, and Ik-do Kim, and christened them as Power Kim and Ik-do Ho. Brother Power said his entire family had escaped from North Korea and was now living in hiding at a mountain deep in the forest in Yanbian, Korean Autonomous Prefecture in China. He felt a lot of remorse that his parents and siblings were faring so poorly while he was eating and living well at a mission center. When I told him to pray to God for his family, he looked at me with outright disbelief. On August 22, Brother Hanguk Min, who was severely crippled, was brought to our mission. I christened him as Sunju Min after the famous Korean martyr, Pastor Sunju Gil. A few days later, Assistant Pastor Jin Bok Ha visited our mission. He was my younger brother's friend, as well as an alumnus of my seminary. At the time, he was operating a Christian bookstore in Daegu in South Korea and considering undertaking mission activities in China through the spread of Christian literature. The North Korean brothers guardedly welcomed any South Korean visitors, but they jumped at Assistant Pastor Ha's offer to take them to a restaurant and also to do some sightseeing. Suffering from cabin fever from being stuck in a small apartment and tired of constant Bible reading, they all began to shout and jump up and down at just the thought of going out. The next day, we went to Jian in Tonghua City in Jilin Province to visit a historic site of Goguryeo, one of the three ancient Korean kingdoms. When we entered the site, the brothers were busily chatting with each other as they looked about. Brothers Moody and Choi were especially animated. Brother Moody flipped several times in the air like a gymnast. The site included several activities for visitors' amusement, including a shooting arcade. Why don't we have a shooting competition? Brother Moody suddenly asked Assistant Pastor Ha. Pastor Ha was a good shot, so he accepted the challenge. He hit the bullseye 8 out of 10 shots. However, both Brother Moody and Brother Choi scored 10 out of 10, even though they shot with just one hand without adopting any kind of shooting stance. Pastor Ha was dumbfounded at the result. Brother Moody spoke behind him. South Koreans spend 3 years in the military, right? We spent 10 years. We can beat South Koreans quite easily if there's ever a fight. Assistant Pastor Ha was speechless after Brother Moody's remark. Assistant Pastor Ha was very impressed with the North Korean brothers after the first meeting. Over the next 3 years, he made 15 visits to our mission center and supported us with Bibles and other Christian literature. The situation in North Korea and Christian persecution. What would become a massive exodus of several hundred thousand North Koreans began in 1997 in response to severe food shortages in which over 2 million people died of starvation in 1997 and 1998. 30 to 40 people died daily in Pyongyang, while 200 to 300 people died daily in Hamhung. Those able to escape fled to China and settled mostly in Heilongjiang, Jilin, and Liaoning provinces, known as the three northeastern provinces of China. The escapees all had to live in hiding from both the Chinese police and the special agents of the North Korean State Security Department, or 보위부. All fled their homeland for the same reason. Their parents, children, wives and husbands, and siblings were starving to death before their eyes. There wasn't even any grass left to eat. They decided to escape to China because they were going to die anyway. When they got caught, they might be dragged away to a political prison camp or executed. However, that wasn't a deterrent either, because they thought if they were going to die anyway, they might as well eat as much as possible. They all said that if there was even grass to eat, they never would have fled North Korea. Because North Koreans were brainwashed to idolize Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il, they never thought of fleeing North Korea, which was equivalent to betraying their homeland, compatriots, the Communist Party, beloved general, and their dear leader. It is hard to understand how the government can still be intact when over 1 million of its people died of starvation in a year. The stories told by the brothers were unending tales of unimaginable horror. For the first time did I hear of the hoyak, weakness disease, from the brothers. For South Koreans, the word itself belongs to the remote past and is rarely used, but the disease was a common experience for all the North Korean escapees. The weakness disease has 3 stages. When a person is without food for a long time, he loses all energy and his anus opens. The size of the anus opening determines the stage of weakness. If a finger can go inside, the weakness is at stage 1. If 2 or 3 fingers can go inside, the weakness is at stage 2. However, if an entire fist can go into the anus, the weakness is at the fatal stage 3. In stage 3, no matter what you eat, you die within 2 to 3 days. The brothers spoke of this disease as nothing unusual, so my surprise at hearing this story looked rather weird to them. Brother Power had eaten tree bark and grass, and when the grass was gone, he ate rice roots. Before escaping North Korea, he ate grass called mugwort that was out of season, which caused his face to become very swollen. Children could not go to school because they were hungry, and the teachers could not teach because they didn't have any energy. Brother Sunju said his mother was an Oriental medicine doctor who also worked as a midwife. She often brought home placentas that they boiled and ate. Brother Kangu said his family scattered and wandered around to find corn. However, the ancient trains they rode often stopped because of breakdowns or because their fuel ran out. It was common for a train to take a whole week or even 2 weeks to travel what would be the distance between Seoul and Daejeon in South Korea, which is about 170 kilometers or 100 miles. According to instructor Kwang, there were 2 types of funerals in North Korea: jikpa, or direct planting into the ground, and vinyl house. Because so many people died in 1997 and 1998, most of them were buried simply in nothing more than a hole dug in the ground. Sometimes several dozen bodies were buried together. These are the jikpa burials. However, government officials or persons of high rank are buried in linen clothes inside a coffin. Such a funeral is called a vinyl house funeral. Brother Kicher said that in burying a person who died in his village, the villagers buried only the bones and took the flesh home to eat. When the authorities found out, the villagers were all shot to death. He added that when one of his family members died, his family stayed at the burial site for 2 days so that no one would come for the flesh. He told these stories as if he were speaking of ordinary events. After listening to their stories, I began to understand their ghastly experiences that drove them to flee North Korea. I was more surprised to hear that no matter how hard their lives had been, the people of North Korea never blamed either Kim Il-sung or Kim Jong-il or their party, the Workers' Party of Korea, in general. They did not even know that the regime's policy was at fault. When they saw their parents and children die of hunger, they blamed themselves for not being able to help them. When a pregnant mother dies because of hunger, the nurses who are attending her cry and say, "Madam, our great general Kim Il-sung knows your pain." And the dying pregnant mother replies, "General, please forgive me for dying so soon and not being able to serve you more." This is truly a very dangerous spell to be under. How so many North Koreans can be enslaved by such a cultic ideology is just unbelievable. North Korea's 주체 ideology that has put the North Koreans under such a dangerous curse is based on Marxist-Leninism. 주체 ideology holds that man is the master over all things and should decide on all things. It is a human-centered ideology. However, this ideology has been used to justify building the dictatorship of Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il by adding that people must be led by the supreme leader in order to be the master of their lives. In North Korea, Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il are the last word in every area of politics, economy, and society and determine all value judgments and rules of conduct. No form of religion is tolerated in North Korea. Children are taught from early childhood that Christianity is a tool for invasion of small and weak nations by the imperialist United States of America and its agent, South Korea's puppet government. Therefore, all Christians in North Korea had already been purged or confined to political prison camps even before the Korean War began on June 25, 1950. Under such a dictatorship, even today, a half-century later, North Koreans are dying without ever hearing the name Jesus. Even those few North Koreans who travel abroad, instructor Kwang told me, are unlikely to be exposed to any sort of contact with Christianity. Those travelers are told, if you go to a foreign nation, you'll see a building with a cross. Do not go near it. In the basement of the church, they slice the flesh off people imprisoned there and sell their flesh in the market. Thus, if you see a church, run away from it as fast as you can. The anti-Christianity rhetoric taught in the elementary schools of North Korea is even worse. There was a missionary named Underwood in Pyongyang, they are told. He owned an orchard. A rotten apple fell from one of his trees and landed outside of his orchard. The apple was eaten by a 9-year-old child. The missionary grabbed the child and used hydrochloric acid to burn the word thief into the forehead of the child. Likewise, Christian missionaries are evil people and they are the agents of American invaders. Because of such teachings, North Koreans view Christians as mentally retarded or crazy. This is why when they first arrive in China, North Korean escapees quickly run away from Christians or Christian missionaries whenever they hear the word Jesus. When a Bible is given to them, they spit on it. If they see a church building with the cross on top or a person at the church, they quickly run away. But because they had to hide from the Chinese police and North Korean special agents and had nowhere else to go but to the Korean Chinese churches that provided them with food, shelter, and small amounts of money for travel, they were drawn closer to the churches. As they drew closer, they also realized that Christians are not cannibals and do not use acid to brand people as thieves. They are reluctant at first to listen to Bible stories, but once they receive the grace of God, they realize that everything they were told back in North Korea was a lie. Hearing about the experiences of my North Korean brothers made my heart heavy, so I went outside. A small bird was flying peacefully. I told myself, the reason I can fly like this today with wings is because there was a ground for me to launch from. I will be their ground. I will be their launching pad. I called on the Lord, and with a humble heart, I looked at the bird, which was flying far away now.